This is VSiN, the sports betting network. This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Oh, we got a fun one. Today begins 5 straight days of high leverage win or go home football games between the college football playoff semifinals and wild card weekend coming up. And in the NFL, another one bites the dust. Mike McDaniel officially out as head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Lots to get to as we welcome you into Money Moves on a Thursday. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you live from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. And it is very nice to have you back after 2 days off. Yep. But I have to tell you, I cannot look at you.
Why not?
I have gotten so accustomed to the facial hair
the mustache, yeah.
and being clean shaven right now is throwing me for a loop.
Well, this is one of those things that I was not going to address it at all on the air. We're just going to move on past it
Can't
so
do
people
it.
can see it. Well, I got caught up what I think is what many men fall into is I was trying to trim it because when it was getting long, it was kind of going handlebar-esque, but it's not. You know, it's not powerful enough to be handlebar-esque. It's also was not powerful enough for me to go to my barber and say, can you help me trim this thing? I don't think it was on that level yet. And so I tried to do it myself. And it was just one of those things where it just kept kind of, I kept kind of correcting. And then it was, you could go in and look like a very infamous historical figure, or you could just get rid of this thing. And I was like, I'll probably just get rid of this thing.
I think it was for the best. However, I'm still very uncomfortable right now, and we'll see how long it takes me to get back adjusted. It's just like when you first started growing the mustache, and I had a hard time looking at you,
Sure.
But then you get used to it, and then that's the norm. So
it is weird because I've
my way out
never
of this
grown
thing.
facial hair before, and when I first saw myself, it was weird, like post mustache. That's about it. You don't dye it?
No, not anymore.
No, okay.
Not anymore. Just the eyebrows.
Okay.
But fortunately for you, though, I will let you stay on the desk. You can keep your job. Mike McDaniel, however, that did not work out as well for him. And that's where we're going to start here real quickly. After 4 seasons in Miami, McDaniel officially out. They miss out on the postseason back-to-back years, no postseason wins. And this year for Miami, authoring, the first double-digit losing season since 2019. And this is a year that, 7 weeks into the season, we were having a lot of these conversations about will they, won't they ultimately move on from Mike McDaniel? Will this even be a midseason firing potentially? They have this back end of the season surge, and there's a lot of talk about, okay, well, actually, maybe did he save his job, create a little bit of an opportunity for himself? You hear after the season ends that he's going to be a part of the decision-making process for the general manager. And now we get the news, obviously, that he is officially out.
I think you and I nailed this the second that some of those reports were coming out that McDaniel was potentially going to be saved.
Sounded a little sus.
There's just no way. And as you and I discussed in our Live Bet Sundays and on this show, that if he gets smoked down the stretch here, there's no shot that he's going to come back. By the way, as I had noted, that Bills win comes back to bite me. Thanks for getting 7 wins. The one number I didn't need for you to get if you're the Miami Dolphins. But you've hit on everything here. I just don't think that you were going to allow Mike McDaniel to oversee what is essentially a rebuild. And you get this kind of clean start. You had fired your GM in the midst of the season. You fire your head coach, and now you get to pair a GM with a head coach and see how that's going to go as you start to retool this thing. You do have some key pieces that are under control, but it's not the important parts. Jalen Waddle, Chop Robinson, Austin Jackson, among some others, but this is not really a team that looks like it is ready to go right now. You need to address what the quarterback is going to be for the future and for the long term. And I think all of that being said, you just kind of want to strip it down and say, you know what, let's just start over. Our initial tear down back in 2018, 2019 didn't work. We got to do this thing again.
For a little bit more background here as well, Jeff Darlington had a pretty good summation that he put out on social media saying owner Steve Ross met with McDaniel Tuesday. The outcome of that meeting left him very, quote, conflicted, and that while he loves McDaniel's intelligence in the offensive mind, the results were not there. Despite the end of the year production, Ross simply wasn't comfortable moving forward with the status quo. Also, per Darlington, the Dolphins have not yet been in touch with John Harbaugh or anyone in his camp and people close to the situation are adamant that the decision to move away from McDaniel is independent of Harbaugh's newfound firing. And yet,
methinks thou doth protest too much.
You likely saw the report yesterday, or if you were listening to the show, we did bring up how immediately following the John Harbaugh firing from Baltimore, Adam Schefter puts up the report that within an hour after that, there were 7 teams that were already calling Harbaugh's camp about him. there were only 7 total teams that had let go of their coach, and that included the Ravens. So we knew there was at least one team that still had an active head coach that inquired. There were reports that it was not Miami, but now obviously with this coming, we know Stephen Ross has connections with the Harbaughs based on the relationships from the University of Michigan. So it seems a little bit obvious.
Just like the report stated that Mike McDaniel was safe. So I wouldn't really believe everything.
Like it's all of these reports are.
Yeah.
How much do you put stock in them?
And so I think at the end of the day, this needed to happen. The other side of this, too, is Mike McDaniel is going to get a job pretty quickly here as an offensive coordinator, I would think. He is still a very good play caller. We saw some of that at the end of the season when he was getting a little bit out of Quinn Ewers, and this offense had started to run the ball particularly well. They went on that run, as you had mentioned, largely because of the offense really getting a lot out of it little when it came to the personnel. So he's going to be a very popular selection for an offensive coordinator. One would assume Washington, who just lost Cliff Kingsbury, is probably going to be among some of the top teams that is going to go out there and try to get him out to their camp and try to get them signed. So we'll see, but I would assume he's going to be there. Can I ask you a question that Will Hill posed? What would you set the odds at Mike McDaniel here getting another head coaching job at any point?
I think it depends on how well he does it as a coordinator. Similar to how we talk about with pretty much any of these guys once they go up and down.
Yeah.
One thing about him that has always kind of struck me as odd is how he got progressively weirder as a head coach publicly, right? Because when he first got the job and when he was being touted as this great offensive mind coming over from the 49ers, he seemed like he handled the room better. And then over the course, year after year, it's gotten stranger with the sound bites and you know what I'm saying?
I think
the way he represented himself has changed.
I think much like anytime there's a relationship that grows and you're with each other for a very long time, I don't think he changed at all. I just think that he got less attractive because he was failing. And then we realized, maybe this whole shtick doesn't really work, and it's actually kind of
this
weird.
thing that we thought was charming and kind of unique and quirky about you is actually taking a turn, and we don't like it anymore. Right. It's like an ick for a girl when you think you like a guy, and then he does one thing.
Then he starts like buckling himself in and stuff like that.
And then you can't stand anything he does after that.
Absolutely.
That's it. Okay, so this is just
personal.
This is just the tip of the iceberg. We have so much to get to over the course of the show. So we put the rundown aside for a moment, but let's set the table for everything else coming up over the next 2 hours.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is the Rundown.
We have a lot on deck today, and I'm excited. It starts with our stacked guest list. Beginning in about 20 minutes, Nick Bogdanovich, head of trading at Boomer Sportsbook, is going to stop by. We'll find out where the bets are going for the CFP semifinals and the NFL postseason. Then at 3:15 Eastern, best bets from Jason Jarvis, professional bettor. 3:30, Jeff Erickson, RotoWire. Going to get some prop angles for the wild card round from him.
Yep, looking forward to it, including Jason, currently third in the Circa Friday Football Invitational, 72.5 points. But the best number for him here, Jarvis, 13-4-1 on the best bets so far this season. So we'll get his thoughts on what the postseason brings.
We also will get into what was a wild night in the NBA, whether you're looking on the court or off. We'll get JVT's thoughts on the Wizards trade for Trae Young. Hawks get CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert in return. And pretty fun night in general. 2 overtime games, 3 buzzer beater endings, including one that tragically impacts our Charlotte Hornets win-o-meter.
Well, the problem is it doesn't impact the win-o-meter because it doesn't get filled up. The Charlotte Hornets, LaMelo Ball gets a layup with 1.2 seconds left. You think we're gravy, and all of a sudden Emmanuel quickly happens. A brutal loss, but a really good night, like you mentioned in the association. It was fantastic. Talked about it with Zach Cohen on Howard Handicappers today, which you can check out wherever you get your podcasts.
The Charlotte Hornets play-by-play man, Eric Collins, was all of us that are rooting for the Hornets right now. As soon as quickly got the ball, he goes, "Oh, no! No!"
So, you know, it's funny. That is a great observation because I said just that to Zach.
Did you?
Because he knew he got open. Like they had lost quickly. They knew he was open, and the second you heard it, and he knew it too. No, because you know he's going to get an open look, and sure enough, it went down.
We will see, however, if the Hornets can bounce back tonight as we break down the 4-game card in the NBA. The Hornets are on the second half of a back-to-back and could be in a pretty good spot, favored by 4.5.
Third game in 4 nights as well, so not a favorable situation.
And vamos a fiesta!
There we go.
I will admit I'm very whitewashed, and I initially wrote, "Let's fiesta," but JVT can always count on you to correct us. We got a good one with the Fiesta Bowl coming up tonight. Miami and Ole Miss at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 Eastern on ESPN. We got Miami looking to get back in the national title game for the first time since 2003. Ole Miss never been there in the modern era. And from a betting standpoint, Miami favored by largely 3. The hooks are going away. Circa was the first place I saw kind of go back to the 3 yesterday. The rest of the market has joined. A couple books do still have that 3.5, but you have to pay a bit bit of a juiced price for it, around minus 120. Steady money also on the over JVT, up from 51.5 to 52.5 across the board. I even see 153.5 in the market.
I was going to say, at the place we're sitting right now, it's sitting at 53 according to the screen. I'd fancy myself looking at under the total here as it continues to climb. But at the end of the day, it's going to be pretty interesting. You have two teams that I think largely most of us did not expect to be here at this point right now. Not even facing off against each other, just even being here against anybody. But here we are. Miami, wildly impressive along the lines of scrimmage, I think both ways, offensively and defensively. And for Ole Miss, Trinidad Chambliss kind of putting the team on his back a little bit last week and performing extremely well. I cannot wait to see what this game is. These two teams are playing. You talk about teams that are getting hot. I mean, these are two teams that have just gotten hot and played extremely good football. And this looks like it's going to be every bit of the coin flip that the market thinks it's going to be tonight. You
mentioned Chambliss, certainly the most dangerous quarterback remaining among the four here, still trying to get to that national title spot. What?
Even less dangerous than Fernando Mendoza?
Yes, I think it's
Heisman winner and potential number one overall pick?
I think it's fair to say we're going with the ground game in Indiana. But the money matchup in this game, obviously, is going to be what Trinidad Chambliss and the Ole Miss offense can do against this stout Miami Hurricanes defense, D-line, those two studs coming off of the edge. What does this thing look like? And maybe this is kind of like what I talked to you about when we were initially previewing Oregon and Texas Tech. Sometimes when one matchup is talked about so much, they end up canceling each other out a little bit. So could this come down to the other side of the ball and Miami's offense against Ole Miss's defense that struggled?
I mean, it could. I'd also say one of the things that stuck out in the Ohio State-Miami game, which we had kind of harped on when you were gone, is this secondary is actually pretty good for Miami too. And these are some big body corners that can go after anybody. Carnell Tate didn't really show up in that game, and that was largely because of the secondary that he was facing. Can these Ole Miss receivers find any sort of daylight against these guys while also along the offensive line dealing with that pass rush you're talking about?
Yeah, no doubt about it. Okay, we got to step aside here, but when we come back, we will dive deeper into the Fiesta Bowl matchup, some potential prop betting opportunities, and where we sit on a side in this one. Don't go anywhere. More Money Moves coming up after this.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools. But what they don't want you to know is that you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. VSiN Pro gives you access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Just tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
New year, new you. Make your sports betting resolution in 2026 to be a smarter bettor. Powered by VSiN Pro. Join VSiN Pro. Get instant access to everything you need to make informed bets each and every day. When you sign up, you'll get our daily best bets from all of our show hosts and guests. Real-time betting splits, AI-powered prop tools and matchup analysis, 24/7 video, full show replays as well on the VSiN Watch app, plus expert picks and prop data throughout the entirety of the NFL and college football playoffs. Get started today for just $9.99 or save 50% with an annual plan. Start betting smarter today at vsin.com/subscribe. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. Speaking of the college football playoffs, we are kicking off the semifinals tonight from Glendale, Arizona, as the Fiesta Bowl gets underway. Going to be a fun one here with Miami and Ole Miss. We told you last segment, Miami currently sitting largely across the board 3-point favorites in this one. The consensus total 52.5, with some places seeing that tick up a little bit, including right here at Circa where we're broadcasting from at that 53. And I've kind of changed my tune on this game a little bit, JVT, from when we initially found out this was the matchup. I was on the air with you last Friday, and I said I leaned in both of these semifinals toward the dog.
That's right, yeah.
And I gave a little bit of love for Ole Miss, especially after having seen the magistry from Trinidad Chambliss and the way he was running all over the place and just found ways to take over the game against Georgia. A Georgia defense that I thought was relatively good, that I had power rated as the team that was going to win the national championship. I feel a little bit differently after digging more into this matchup, and I keep coming back to the trenches in which Miami wins that battle.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would agree. This pass rush has been great. For the second consecutive game for Julian Sayin, unfortunately for the Buckeyes, he hadn't really faced pressure all year long. Mm-hmm. Then he gets Indiana, who gets after him in the Big Ten championship game. Then he gets Miami, who was getting after him in the entirety of that bowl game. And I think we're back here again where you mentioned it. Trinidad Chambliss against Georgia. He had, according to PFF, 46 dropbacks. He was pressured on 8 of those dropbacks. That's a minuscule number when you're talking about being pressured. And in those 8, he handled them very well. It was 5 of 8, 87 yards, didn't commit turnover-worthy play. He was very good under pressure. That's such a minute sample size. One would assume that this is going to grow in terms of how many dropbacks he will be under pressure. And I keep going back to Miami. Part of pressure is your pass rushers. Mm-hmm. They're very good. They're able to generate that. The other part is opposing quarterbacks can't find open guys. And Miami could do that too. They're very good in terms of their coverage. Really sticky, not allowing guys to get open. Again, Jeremiah Smith had a monster game. Look at the rest of the box score for the rest of those pass catchers for Ohio State. There's really nothing else in terms of production for Sayin to find.
Keontae Scott's awesome.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be part of what we're looking at here. Miami defensively, we can talk about Carson Beck. We can talk about the offense. But defensively, I've been wildly impressed with what they've been able to do in both games so far. And that kind of draws a line through the Texas A&M windstorm nonsense that they were dealing with. This is a pass rush that's going to get after it, and a secondary that's going to make that pass rush jobs easier.
Yeah, I have been listening to some of the sound from both teams' respective media days coming into this game. And one of the things that Chambliss said was he has to have a timer in his head to kind of know when to scramble, when to make good decisions, get the ball out quickly, all those things, which is totally the right things to say. Easier said than done, though, against this unit. And you mentioned him not seeing a ton of pressure against that Georgia defense. He's not used to seeing these big bodies coming his way in general this season. You look into some of the numbers, he was only pressured 24% of the time this season, which was the lowest in the SEC, 7th lowest in all of college football. And now you've got a D-line and edge rushers coming at you who are the best in college football at doing this. 12 sacks in 2 playoff games, have recorded at least 4 sacks in 4 straight now. And a defense as a whole that just makes it really hard on you as a quarterback and makes it hard to have point production in general. Miami hasn't given up more than 17 points in a single game over the 6-game win streak, averaging just 9.7 points per game allowed in that time. 24 total points their last 3 games combined they've given up.
Yep. 35 total pressures in the 2 games they've played in the playoffs as well. So they've been really, really good.
One other thing I did want to bring up here, though, on the Ole Miss side, and I'm curious your opinion on this, is all of the outside noise that's been going on around them and their coaching staff with the guys that are leaving to go coach with Lane Kiffin at LSU. Pete Golding will have offensive coordinator Charlie Weiss as well as their running backs coach with him. The tight ends coach, wide receivers coaches will not be out there. And there's 2 sides of this coin. A, is it a distraction and is it a big loss that you're not going to have some of these coaches available? Or is it something that is kind of galvanized to your team? Here's Pete Golding on the podium because he certainly thinks it's the latter.
And to be honest with you, I don't think the players give a damn who runs by the tunnel. All right, does it make sense? They care about their plan. They care about getting held accountable, right, and how they're going to prepare. And they care about people that care about them, all right? And I think that's been the message our players have created. But I don't have to say to anybody else.
He's been doing a good job, man. Yep. I mean, clearly they're kind of rallying around whatever's happening. We get the news, of course, was the tight ends coach and one other that was called back to LSU, and they're doing all this nonsense. So I'm shocked that Lane Kiffin, as such a stand-up guy, would put this team through this sort of deal. For whatever you want to say, Golding's at least getting it right. And it's been pointed out by many, he's also done a pretty good job. And, we talk about, I think this is one of the questions that I had, which was, are you a coach that adds wins on the margins? Are you a coach that can handle situations? Are you calling timeouts? Are you going for it? Are you doing all the right things? For the most part, he's done it. He's handled some of these weird fake punt situations, all these other things that they have done. He's done a pretty good job of having this team ready to go in terms of his own decision-making. So I think you're kind of seeing at the very least, whether it was lightning in the bottle in the first 2 rounds or whatever it is, I think that he's at least proven that he's capable of getting this job done. Now the question becomes, who has the coaching edge? As crazy as it might sound, I think it might be Mario Cristobal.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it might be, right?
Yeah.
It's probably what we're looking at. I want to ask you, so one of the things that I keep seeing is a lot of people keep freaking out about the 2 playoff games in Miami's offense. My rebuttal keeps being, don't you draw a line to the first game? I mean, the win was ridiculous. They couldn't really throw the ball. Neither team could really throw the ball. And they've actually run the ball very well through the first 2 rounds, much better than what I thought they were going to be, because their season-long profile would say that they're a pretty below-average rushing team, and yet here they are through the first 2 rounds doing what they've been able to do on the ground.
100% with you. And, that first game, with all of the wind and everything, I feel like you just have to throw that out. the Carson Beck element of it, I still think that we need to give him credit. And I'm somebody who's been fairly critical of Carson Beck throughout the course of this season, his career in general. He has been very efficient. The touchdown interception ratio over this win streak has been great. He's been protected as well, making better decisions in the larger scheme of things. And to your point, running the ball effectively, which is why, and this is something that Ben Stevens and I talked about a little bit on the program yesterday, I think Mark Fletcher props are absolutely in play here. We've seen a flip of favorites in the head-to-head with he and Keywan Lacey and who's going to have more rushing yards in this game. He was minus 110 yesterday, a dog in that matchup. He's minus 140 favorite today. And I think that's 100% the right side. I completely agree with that movement because of what Ole Miss's defense is going to be coming at you with too. Say what you want about Miami's offense and some of their struggles. You're now facing the easiest defense of this bunch that has been around and a defense that is worse against the run than they are the pass. So I think they could be ripe for the taking in that area with some of those guys.
Specifically, 132nd in the country and opponent expected points added per rush for Ole Miss. So you look at it from that perspective. If you want success rate on the ground, they're 130th. So one's good. And part of this strategy, and this is kind of why I lean a little bit toward the under. I think Miami can ultimately get this done. One would assume that part of the strategy for Miami is going to be don't give Trinidad Chambliss as much time as he can on the field. So cut into that, eat up time of possession, maintain that ball, and run the ball effectively against a defense that has not been great against the run. Now, still on the season, you're an offense that's 105th itself when you're running the ball. So the question is, which weakness, it's like limp noodle versus limp noodle, which one's going to win? But given the way they've been able to run the ball through the first two rounds, especially against Ohio State, I'm going to assume that you're going to be able to be efficient enough here if you're Miami to do what you want from a game plan standpoint.
And Fletcher in particular, so he missed a couple games with an injury before coming back into the playoffs where he has been awesome. He had 172 on the ground against the Aggies, and because of the wind, as we were talking about, certainly needed him to do that, but still puts up 90 in that game against the Buckeyes, has 17 plus carries in each. And again, the defense that you're facing, I feel like he should be able to have a good day and be opportunistic in that area. The prices are not great, and they've been going up a good bit. Yesterday, for him to have 80-plus yards was around minus 135. Now it's minus 160. So, all of those numbers that we gave you yesterday have increased from a juice standpoint. But it could be fun, and it's this isn't a big payout or anything, and you're probably going to be so annoyed that this is the price for these two things to have happen. But if you could have Mark Fletcher run for 86-plus yards and score an anytime touchdown, it's plus 112.
Okay.
And if you want a little bet on that, just to have a little fun, have a little action on the running backs, I do not hate it at all.
Yeah, I think it makes a ton of sense. We have this. I think you share this with me. You have it in Miami as well, right? So from a betting standpoint, I'll take a piece of Ole Miss on the money line just to take a little piece of that, as we only have 2 rounds left and we're here, so we can get something out of it. But
how dope is it that we're here, though?
It's unbelievable.
When they were on the outside looking in of the field,
I thought we were cooked.
For sure.
Yeah. We have our spreadsheet. We're correcting everything, and I was got to chalk up of his loss. I think you were grading him, and you were like, "No, we got to keep it alive. We're still here,
still alive."
Yep,
unbelievable,
still alive, buddy.
So cool. I think this is going to be a really fun game, though. I do wonder in clutch time, though, if this is a field goal game late. And
I don't know, man. Beck deserves some credit. We talked about that stat. I don't know if you were here or not, but 11 of his 19 completions were for first downs against Ohio State. That dude's a gamer.
Yeah.
He had that great run where he threw his shoulder into a dude to get a first down. He's not going to throw, I think, for 400 yards, but he'll make the throws that need to happen.
We'll talk a little bit more about the movement on this game coming up next, because Nick Bogdanovich, veteran odds maker, head of trading over at Boomer Sportsbook, he's going to stop by the program. We'll also get his thoughts on tomorrow's Peach Bowl between Indiana and Oregon, where the money is going in Wild Card Weekend, and so much more coming up next on Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is such a fun time of year to be a sports bettor, and the all-new Boomer Sportsbook is bringing you the action, football postseason, hockey, hoops, and so much more. And when you use the code VSiN250 right now, signing up for a Boomer's mobile account, they'll match your first deposit up to $250 in bonus bets, plus minus 105 on pro football spreads. Download Boomer Sportsbook app today. Learn more at betwithboomer.com. Must be 21 or older. Terms and conditions do apply. Please bet responsibly. Again, that code VSIN250 when you sign up for your Boomers account. Speaking of which, very grateful as we welcome you back to Money Moves to welcome in head of trading at Boomers Sportsbook, Nick Bogdanovich on the Progressive guest line. So much to get into. Of course, the college football playoff semifinals getting underway tonight with the Fiesta Bowl. We've got NFL wildcard weekend upon us. And that's actually where I want to start, Nick, with wildcard weekend. This 49ers-Eagles spread, at least most places I'm seeing out to 5.5 now with some of the injury news that came down yesterday for San Francisco. Trent Williams and Ricky Pearsall, it appears that they are doubtful. No Tatum Bethune on that side. And Lane Johnson probable now for the Eagles. How are people coming in and playing this? Because it seems like it's been all Eagles to this point.
Yeah, it's all Eagles for sure. We opened 3.5. They laid 3.5, 4.5, now up to 5.5 on its way to 6. So, I wouldn't count the 49ers out. They've been playing shorthanded all year. And the Eagles offense can lay an egg at any given moment. So it may look like the Eagles easy right now, but I think the Frisco team gives them a battle this week.
All right, what about starting on Saturday? Stormy's Carolina Panthers are double-digit underdogs at home to the Los Angeles Rams. Where are you guys at? Have you added the hook on L.A., and what's the betting been like here?
Yeah, the first bet we took was definitely from a sharp on the Rams. We opened 10. We got as high as 11 and finally got a little buyback on the Panthers. So I do think the Rams will take care of business here. Whether they cover is a totally different story, but interesting rematch from a month ago or so. And I'm one of those guys rooting for the Rams to go quite a ways just because I want to watch Puka Nacua play a little more.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I'm sure they're thrilled that they're going to have Devontae Adams back as well, see what they can do offensively against that Panthers defense. Meanwhile, the second game of that Saturday slate, are we going to continue to see the favorite just swap hands as we go up until kickoff?
Maybe. It's very possible. Incredible action on the game. And that's good. It's not the, a number you sweat. Granted, it's playoffs, so when a game falls, it really hurts because there's a lot more money in the pot. But, yeah, I think you could see that flip a couple more times.
How popular are these teasers going to be, especially with these two games, Green Bay, Chicago, Buffalo, Jacksonville?
Yeah, very. But that's okay. Everyone thinks, use your points judiciously. Don't waste them. If you're out there listening, definitely tease down through key numbers or above through key numbers. But that's okay. In playoffs, you can see some blowouts every now and then. So there'll be plenty of teasers up plus 7.5. But that's okay. I feel pretty good about that.
Moving ahead to Sunday, the Bills and Jags. This is one of those games when I first saw the spread come out, I was pretty surprised to see Buffalo favored on the road, given Josh Allen's history on the road in playoff games, how good Jacksonville has played down the stretch. How are people coming to the counter and playing this game with Buffalo a short favorite?
Yeah, I think it'll be a great two-way action. I personally like the Jags. We had the Bills as high as 1.5, then got down to pick. Now Bills won. But they're, I just like Jacksonville's. They don't have a weakness. Coaching solid, running game solid, Lawrence playing solid, defense solid. Whereas the Bills, they're going to have to outscore you to win this game. Their defense is just not up to snuff. But I like the Jags in the game, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Bills went in there and Josh Allen carried them to victory.
What about Los Angeles on the road against New England? Chargers catching 3.5 or so in the market with a total of 46. What have you seen here?
Actually, the only thing we've seen on this game is the total got bet over 46 and then bet under 46.5. So far, the side has been silent. Obviously, the majority of that money will come in on Sunday. I'll be shocked if we don't need the Chargers. New England, with that gaudy record and plenty of blowouts in there, I think the public will be all over the Patriots at some point. I definitely think the books in Nevada will be rooting for the Chargers.
Nick Bogdanovich, head of trading over at Boomer Sportsbook, joining us here on the Progressive guest line. That is the first total we really brought up here. Any other ones across the board that you've seen some attention on? I know this wild card round is kind of unique in that all of these games are going to be outdoors and weather could come into play for some.
Yeah, the other one that's drawn quite a bit of action is Houston-Pittsburgh under. and rightfully so. Looks like a defensive game from the jump. So, but that game's moved quite a bit down, and I think you might even see that one get under 38.
In terms of futures liability for these teams that are still alive, Nick, which one's the one that does not need to make a big run for you guys?
I guess Bills and Packers are the two worst to win the Super Bowl. So, but in of the 14 teams left, we're in pretty good shape with about eight or nine of them. Lose with a couple and break even on some others. So I feel pretty good about our future position.
You mentioned the Rams being a team that you would like to see go a little bit of the distance here. How are, in terms of the futures market, like, are people getting involved in that right now that we've seen the bracket and we kind of have a path paved out for certain teams, people getting involved? Are the Rams a team that people are interested in, or if not, who is?
I think you'll see at this time of the year more future betting than normal. Usually you have shorter prices this time because it's so wide open. The prices are a little juicier than they normally are at this time of the year. So I think you'll see an increased handle in future betting in the NFL right now, just because you're getting some really good prices on some. I think all the teams actually who are alive can win it, except for the Steelers and the Panthers. Other than that, I think everyone can win it.
Come on now. Panthers have some redeeming qualities.
Also, the Steelers, especially, they're getting that full field goal at home against Houston. I haven't heard a soul make a good case for the Steelers.
Well, this is actually a good question for you, Nick, because I think a lot of people will ask the question, hey, I just watched the Ravens go off as 4.5 point favorites in a game with the division on the line at Pittsburgh. Now the Texans are only laying 3. What gives?
Maybe DK Metcalf is worth a couple points. I don't think so, but no. It's just I'm super, super high on Houston. I think if CJ Stroud gives them any kind of decent play during this playoffs, they can make a deep run, and I think he will. I like Woody Marks. He's a little healthier now, and their defense and special teams are pretty darn strong. So I'm very bullish on the Texans. I wouldn't want to play him if I was the other squad.
How about tonight, Nick, as the CFP semis get underway with the Fiesta Bowl, Miami and Ole Miss here? It seems like the dog has been getting some love with the Ole Miss Rebels. Where do you guys sit?
Yeah, two-way action, really good. We opened 3, went to 3.5. They took 3.5 back to 3. So, yeah, I think it'll be a good two-way ride on this game. I think everyone's sort of fallen in love with the Canes. They drew big money against A&M. They drew money against Ohio State, and our original opener, they laid the 3. So the Sharps are definitely on the Canes, but I think the public's going to be on Ole Miss a little, to be honest with you. I think they see this SEC team with Chambliss just playing lights out and making Mahomes-like plays. So I think it'll be really good two-way action on this game.
All right, what about tomorrow? Oregon and Indiana in the rematch here. Indiana right now looking at 3.5 with a total of 48. What does this look like from your perspective?
Yeah, same thing. We opened 4. The Sharps are all over Oregon, plus 4. We're to 3.5. But I think the public money tomorrow will be on Indiana, just because, they've just had about 12 or 13 perfect games all year. So it'll be interesting. Indiana, Oregon, you would think that the public money might be on the more popular Oregon team that's been a pretty strong power for 20 years. But no, I think the public will be all on Indiana tomorrow.
Before we let you go, only about 60 seconds left here, but do you have a feel for which one of these teams is going to go on to win it all?
I'm rooting for Ole Miss just because I've sort of become enamored with this Chambliss kid. The plays he makes are unbelievable, but every one of them is an interesting story. But I do think when it's all said and done, Indiana will be the champion.
Nick, you're awesome. Thank you so much for the time today. We appreciate you.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
It's Nick Bogdanovich doing great work over there at Boomer Sportsbook. We appreciate the time. Should Ole Miss ultimately get to the mountaintop and win, they are the longest shot on the board at 6-1. Yeah. Indiana, who Nick said he thinks will win it, plus 125 favorite. Miami and Oregon in the plus 310, plus 330 range. Interesting wrinkle. This is, at least in the Curt Cignetti tenure at Indiana, first time you have a rematch against an opponent. So what does that look like when you got a little bit of film and a first time around? Can Oregon actually adjust? But Oregon has not played well through the first 2 rounds. Maybe that means the best game's coming. I don't know. Maybe. And it's like each game is something different too.
Right.
Like in game 1, it was the defense that felt like it was the problem. Game 2, obviously the offense made all of those mistakes.
And I would say the coaching too. I thought the play calling on those fourth downs and third downs were awful.
Yeah, Lanning admitted in game 2 for some of the things that he had issues with. Silly me. We'll be right back. More Money Moves coming up after a quick timeout.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
No, you can't throw to me on this. I believe I might have read a fake report. I'm not entirely sure if this is the case.
Okay.
There's an alleged report out there that
maybe don't say it then if you think it's fake.
That Dan Hurley is facing a possible season-long suspension for abuse of officials. What's making me laugh is the thing he allegedly called them. So
oh no! Okay.
This seems ridiculous.
All right,
but it's from the real Rob Reinhart. I don't know.
Okay, but
We'll
is real spelled with like 2 E's?
Yeah, I'm trying to see. Like, yeah, I don't know if this is. I don't know if this is it.
We're going to talk NBA here, but we were actually talking a little college basketball in the break. And how impressive is Vanderbilt? 15-0 now. They get the dub over Alabama, win and cover, all the things.
Yes.
Why are you laughing?
I'm sorry. Human sent this to me, and it's distracting me. I apologize. What were you saying?
Anyways,
Alabama?
Vanderbilt, very good at basketball.
Yes, very good at basketball. It was a very impressive performance. The last couple of days of college basketball have been very good. Yesterday, Alabama and Vandy was a lot of fun. Alabama kind of comes back. Looks like maybe they're going to steal one from Vandy. Vandy ultimately takes control, gets a win. As I was talking to you about it, watching it, a lot of just really impressive with the guard play for Vandy. A lot of dribble drive, a lot of kickouts, a lot of easy finishes, just blowing by dudes. I don't know if that was more about Alabama's inability to guard ball screens or whatever it was, but really impressive. And then the day before, by the way, a absolute banger between Houston and Texas Tech that was fantastic. Mm-hmm. So we'll see if Houston can maintain that as they pull away there. But just college basketball, this is the time of year, obviously, we're in the depths of conference play now. This is where it's really going to start to get going. So I've enjoyed the last few nights of both college basketball and, of course, pros, which last night was absolutely a ton of fun. And tonight, sneaky good one tonight. Santa Clara and Gonzaga and the West Coast Conference should be pretty fun.
Just to wrap up that conversation on Vandy, it does feel like they are the clear-cut team, best team, rather, in the SEC. They're minus 115 odds-on favorite now to win the conference, and we saw their national championship odds even in the last 24 hours after getting that win over Alabama cut down from 30-1 to 22-1. But you mentioned last night and pushing it forward to tonight. One team that is very top of mind for the two of us has been the Charlotte Hornets. We already talked about how frustrating the end of that game was last night with Emmanuel Quickly hitting the last second three at the buzzer to cost what would have been another dub for the Charlotte Hornets. That said, they could have an opportunity tonight. Not a great schedule spot, but they're taking on a pretty bad team.
Yes, they are. So that's the balance here that we have to find. And I was talking about this with Zach Cohen. Again, I was on Harvard Handicappers today, so check that out wherever you get your podcast. The question just becomes, like, what do we buy into here? The scheduling spot, which is the second leg of a back-to-back and a third game in 4 nights for a Charlotte Hornets team that's coming off of another clutch time game in which they lost to the Toronto Raptors. Or do we go with Indiana, who is the advantageous part of that scheduling situation, but has lost 13 straight, has only covered 5 of those, has been outscored by 11.5 points every 100 possessions over the course of these 13 games, and has failed to cover by 6.6 points every single one of these games. It's a rock and a hard place, essentially, at this point right now. Not really feeling confident in either side, but the more I've thought about this, the more I've realized, look, if we're going to be true Buzz City backers, this is a spot that if we believe in this team, they should be able to do it. They should be able to come in here and get a win and a cover against an Indiana squad that has been flailing in almost every aspect of their game. And you as a team have been playing better. Now, we know that Brandon Miller is injured, and he didn't play last night. We'll see if he's going to play here. Some of the comments from the coaching staff indicated that they were just kind of deciding on how to handle back-to-back situations with Miller. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not he's going to be able to play.
He's probable.
Okay,
as his designation right now.
So that's a good thing, because as we know and we've talked about with the Holy Trinity of LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, and Con Knippel, this team has been absolutely incredible when they've been out there. So The fact that we're moving in Charlotte's direction, I think, has to do with the injury report, the fact that Miller's going to be out there. And if that's the case, I do think 4.5 is fair to ask Charlotte to win and cover this spot.
Should I place my second game bet in the NBA tonight and lay it with the Charlotte Hornets?
Sure.
I have a lot of futures action now. You've gotten me involved where I have things that I'm following, but I haven't been betting day-to-day basketball with the exception of that ugly OKC loss to San Antonio, which makes me want to die. So can we bounce back with the Charlotte Hornets for my second play?
Let's do it. We'll do a friendship.
I'm going to add it.
We'll do a show play here. Money moves. Hornets -4.
I'm about it. Okay, we got 3.
I just need the Hornets to get to, what's your dad's win total?
27.5.
27.5. We just need them to get to 28.
We've seen some movement on this Cavs-Timberwolves game as well. Minnesota down from 4 to 2.5 right now. Total 237.5.
I would agree with that. We were talking about this today, too, on the show, which is the Cavaliers starting to get healthier. Darius Garland has been playing. We just got a report the other day, I think it was yesterday. Max Strus is going to be out again for about 4 weeks. Not again. The absence is going to be extended for about 4 weeks, so not going to be back anytime soon. Having said that, the Cavs have won 6 out of their last 9 games. Darius Garland is playing much better. Over these 9 games, well, they've only covered 3 of them, Stormy. They're a top 10 team in offensive efficiency. They're a top 11 team in defensive efficiency. They're just starting to look more like the Cavaliers you expected to before the injuries got hold of them. So, as I had said, I thought 4 was the playable number. We moved off of that pretty quickly. I think the Cavs are kind of starting to round into the team that you expected them to be. And it's a relatively clean injury report for both teams. So you kind of expect a pretty clean game between the two of them. Only name that's on the injury report for Minnesota is Terrence Shannon Jr. Outside of that, this is a matchup in which all hands should be on deck. So dare we say, some would say, a finals preview potentially, because these are two teams that could consider themselves contenders in their respective conferences. But I would agree with the market saying, hey, look, we don't think Minnesota's better. We think these two teams are near equals to each other, especially now that the Cleveland Cavaliers are a little bit healthier. Let's roll with pushing this down, and I would agree with that. But I think 4 is the playable number, again, to reiterate. If it gets back up there, that's worth playing, but for right now, nothing.
Same tip time for Bulls Heat. Miami out from 5.5 to 7.5 point favorites, and a strong move to the under in this one from 241.5 to 237.5.
Didn't really have anything here. Third game in 4 nights for the Chicago Bulls. Second leg of a back-to-back as well. Injury report, pretty positive for Miami. They opened up as 5.5 point favorites. Like you said, they're up to 7.5 here. Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, all available to play, as is Norman Powell. The question is Jaime Jaquez Jr. Will he play? He is questionable at last look, but either way, can kind of understand where we're at and pushing this number up. Miami's defense has been very good. Their offense has been very much middle of the pack, has fallen off since that really hot start. And actually, this was the game that I wanted to bet under. Opened 241.5, but we've moved pretty quickly. We're down to 237.5 here. Miami does play with a lot of pace, but they're a good defensive team, and their offense is inefficient. And Chicago's own offense has had a lot of issues. So got priced out very quickly. I would say, again, if it gets back up to that range, yes, but I don't think we're going to get a 4-point buyback on the over here. So wait in game to see if there's something that's available.
Anything in the nightcap, Mavs Jazz?
Yes, actually, I'm going to be curious to see. Let me double check to see what the injury report looks like if there's been an update, because with these new policies, they update them every 15 minutes. But for the Dallas Mavericks, one of the things that I was looking at here, Brandon Williams has been upgraded to probable. Okay. So Brandon Williams has actually been playing pretty well. And if you look at his point total prop, it's sitting at 13.5 right now. And by the way, the Mavericks 6.5 point favorites here. Jazz are playing, again, similar situation to the other two teams we discussed. Second leg of a back-to-back, third game in 4 nights. Almost beat the Thunder yesterday before losing in overtime, which we can talk about in a little bit.
Yeah.
But Brandon Williams, his point total prop at 13.5. He's gone over it in 5 straight games. They've been asking him to do a little bit more. And I think the Mavericks are just kind of hurting for some ball handling at this point right now. The other day essentially started no guards. They need somebody to kind of help them in the backcourt, and Williams has gotten that call, and he's done a really good job. He's also a guy that will pressure you at the rim, takes the majority of his shots within 4 feet of the basket. The Jazz are a pretty poor rim defensive team, and their guards, while we like Keontae George and others, they're not really good ball-stopping on-the-ball defenders. So if Williams, again, continues to see his usage rise here a little bit, I think you can get a game in which the Jazz maybe push a little bit more in terms of pace and tempo. You can get the possessions that you need to get Williams over a number that he's gone over in 5 straight games now. So over 13.5 points for Brandon Williams tonight.
So you mentioned the Jazz almost beating the Thunder. Yeah. They go to overtime. OKC ends up winning it 129-125. After the start that the Thunder had to this season, where they're on the sick 24-1 run, things have really fallen off. They're still, over 500 in their stretch since at 7-6, but 6 losses compared to 1 in your first 25 games is a very different thing. What has happened to the Thunder?
I mean, I think they're just kind of look. It's hard. I think when you look at that, it's hard to maintain that level of intensity every single night. I also think, and this is something we discussed on the podcast too, they can't shoot. They're not a good shooting team. We saw it again last night. They shot under 30% as a team from beyond the arc, and that's something that they need to fix. And we're all sitting here making fun of the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're sitting on an atom bomb. They have all of these picks that they can just at any point go and get what they need and fix some of the issues. To me, though, that is the biggest problem. They're a team that cannot shoot well. They cannot shoot consistently. That burned them last year. Remember on the road, Stormy, when we were watching all throughout that postseason, the games that they struggled away from home, they shot about 32% from three in those games and just 36% at home. That's not something that you can do to win championships.
They are still odds on in the conference, albeit a much cheaper price than we've seen in a long time, -120.
I have something on that for you later.
Okay, sounds good. With a quick reminder, though, as we're in this part of the year where it's postseason football, we've got all these fun sports going on. If you want to sit down and watch the game with a good meal, Omaha Steaks has you covered. They are the official sponsor of tailgating. And right now, when you spend $129, you can score 2 pounds of fully cooked chicken wings plus 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com/vsin. Again, omahasteaks.com/VSIN. Minimum purchase required. Please see site for details. Yesterday, first day we got some real tangible injury report news for Wild Card Weekend. We can hit on that and get your reaction to that final comment on OKC coming up.